Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the IWillAim Podcast. Our topic for today is building a $1 billion company. Learn from Borja about how he helped build a 1 billion company and the leadership lesson he learned along the way with my guest, Borja Cuan. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Good, doing good. Looking forward to our conversation. How about if we kick off with a quick introduction?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Borja Cuan. I co-founded 415 Digital, which is a performance marketing agency. We help businesses scale specifically by way of helping them advertise across various digital channels: Google, Bing, Meta, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and TikTok are some of the most channels that we're investing on behalf of our clients. But simply put, we're partnering with businesses to help them achieve record results in terms of sales.
Well, thank you for that quick introduction. Let's go right on to the topic. You've been part of building a company that surpassed 1 billion. That's impressive. What were the key decision or turning point that made that possible?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's been 7.5 years since we started the business. I think when we decided to start an agency, we both had worked for many years as employees of companies before becoming entrepreneurs, but I always were exposed to very entrepreneurial companies. So, working closely with business people who were very entrepreneurial in nature and learned a lot from them through that. And were able to bring a lot of that knowledge and experience to the business. So, for us, it's a lot about focusing on fundamentals. So, really important as a business to make sure that we're focused on profitable growth, not just top line revenue. Top line revenue matters, of course, but we also want to make sure that we're aware of the profitability that we're generating for the business. When we started the company, we were very aggressively pursuing customers. So we were just happy with our first customer wanting to work with us and entrust us to provide the services that we provide. And we weren't really focused on how much money we were making from those companies. Frankly, we were just focused on getting the business, and we knew that once we got the business, we would be able to showcase our skills and build a lot of trust and confidence from that client. And because of that, that would lead to more business down the road. And so it was really intentional that we went out and said, let's just, do a good job, and the good work will speak volumes. But sometimes we, as a younger company, less mature, less experienced, we took on deals that didn't make sense for the business. And that's okay, because we learn from that and we realize that not every deal, just because someone wants to work with you, is necessarily good for the business. So I think over time we matured, we more clearly identified and defined who our ICP was. And by doing that, it allowed us to scale. The other thing I would say is really focus on talent investment, really hiring ahead of growth and bringing in the right people before we needed them. So always being at a surplus of talent, which is one of our mottos, making sure that we're always aware of what the demand was coming in, but also staffing and making sure that we had surplus of staff, because you never know, what the demands will be in terms of customer acquisition. And we were always focused on building pipeline. And then I would say lastly, making data driven decisions. So building systems and reporting that gave us clarity on what worked at scale. So in business, you can't manage what you can't measure. And so really focusing on the data to inform us on the decisions that we're making was really important as we got bigger and we were working with bigger companies.
You talk about focusing on the fundamentals. What are the key fundamentals that you think were important that contributed to your success?
Yeah, not being very clear on the mission that we were on. Like, why were we doing what we're doing with 415 Digital? Why did we decide to start an agency? being very focused on that. And also being focused on the core service offering that we wanted to provide
Yeah.
and not overextending ourselves into other areas that might be needed by the client, but we didn't necessarily have the skill set or experience in. So that's not to say that we didn't want to expand services and provide additional ways for us to build deeper relationships with our clients and have them rely on us more for solving some of their problems. That's more to say it was really important for us to say, hey, we are really good at this and let's be very focused on this, double down on this, invest in this, and not become distracted by things that are potential opportunities, but not having confidence in those things. So like for us, it was like, hey, we're good at this. Let's go all in here. This is what our capabilities are. And let's provide this service at an A+ level. So I think when I think of fundamentals, it's really being very clear on what the mission is and not allowing yourself to become distracted by potential distractions.
I think that's the one that's really hard, not getting distracted by potential disruption. I think the other thing that you mentioned was ensuring that you have enough talent, surplus talent. As an
Yeah.
organization, how did you make that commitment to do that? Because that's cost
Yeah.
ahead of potential income in the future.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that too because when you look at the numbers, you say, well, we don't need more people because the income we're generating from these clients doesn't justify it, right? So it's if you look at it purely numerically, it doesn't make sense. But if you think of it from a building a healthy organization standpoint, it makes sense. And what I mean by that is we really want to make sure that we're staffing that our team is not burning out. And burnout is a real thing, especially in this industry where the demands are very high, the standards are high, clients are very sort of have that great expectations. So we always wanted our team to know that, listen, one of the things we commit to you is we will always have a surplus of talent. And what that means to you is we're not going to ask you to do more than you should be doing, right? We don't want you working 15 hours a day. We don't want you working weekends. We may need you to work weekends once in a while. We may need you to work on a weeknight once in a while, but that won't be the standard that we're setting for you. So having a surplus of talent not only allows us to be prepared for the incoming demand from the customer side, but also, even if we don't have demands coming from clients, it gives the team the ability to not be overextended. And it translates into better service because then our team is really focused on the clients that they have. We're not giving them 10 clients to manage, we're giving them 4 clients to manage. But that means to me as a leader, you have no excuse for not going deep with your clients and providing really good service because we're not burdening you with too many accounts. So this is an opportunity for you to really go and understand their business, spend time with them, build relationships with them, and you'll have enough time in the day to do that.
It's amazing what you're doing is a rarity in any industry. Leaders thinking about their employee not burning out because most company is we're living a hustle culture, right? Reward for good work is more work, right? Meaning more time to put in the work. But it's great to see leadership like you thinking about health and well-being and making sure that your people are recharged and ready to go each week.
Yeah, and not to give myself too much credit, but this was probably one of the biggest learnings that I had as a leader because I did not do exactly what I said to you I'm doing now early on. So, what that means is I didn't place the employee over the client, I had the client over the employee. But that was one of my biggest learnings as a leader is that's not a sustainable business plan. That's not going to create a healthy organization. That's not going to allow our team to feel good about their job and want to be here. So that was something that I had to acknowledge and admit to the team as one of my failures as a leader was to recognize that earlier and not put them over clients. And so we made that one of our values as a business is now if we have to choose, it's employees over clients. And so what I'm talking about is a pivot I made a couple years into the business after really realizing that I was making a mistake by wanting my intentions were good in that I wanted to deliver great service to our clients and I wanted them to be raving fans and I was obsessive over retention. But I failed to recognize that I have to have a balanced approach to that, meaning it can be done, but not at the cost of the employee. It has to be in a way that everybody wins.
That's a hallmark of a great leader, and I just say that to you. And I know that it's a byproduct of realization. And for a leader to admit I made a mistake and we're pivoting to focus on you over the client, it's an amazing experience for your people. As you mentioned, as you grow your company and work with your client, how has, like you said, you pivoted, acknowledging something that's wrong? What else do you do to grow from where you were to where you are now? Because that journey is, like you said, 7 years. In that 7 years, how has your leadership changed even better than it was before?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things when you're starting a business and you really want to be involved, right? In the early days, you're very hands-on in the weeds,
Yeah.
right? You're just like, that's because, you're doing everything you can to grow the business, right? As you evolve, mature, and you get sort of later in terms of the evolution of the business, you shift to empowering leaders on the team to do more of that work, right? To own client relationships, to execute. Delegation becomes a really important skill set, if you want to call it a skill set that you need to learn as a leader, the ability to delegate, right? So you're the quarterback, you understand the mission, you might be building an overall strategy, but then you really need good people below you or beneath you. And not to say that in a negative way, but you need an extension or a team that you can delegate a lot of these responsibilities to, because if not, then you can't focus on the things that move the business most impactfully forward, right? You can't be in the weeds. The weeds is important and someone has to be doing that, but it can't be you if you want to scale. So I think as you get bigger, it's absolutely imperative that you delegate, that you shift, and you empower your managers and leaders on the team to own a lot of the things that you previously did. And I think as you scale too, like the importance of communication, repeating the vision more than you think is necessary is really important. Making sure that everybody is clear on what the mission is and what the objectives are for the business and how their role plays, how their position or role has an impact on achieving those goals, right? So like that is really important. We're about to have an offsite with the team in a couple of weeks, and part of my objective on that offsite is to inspire them, is to motivate them, is to remind them of why we do what we do and what our goals and objectives are. What is the mission for the company? What are we solving for, right? And then also like explain like why each of the person's role is important to accomplishing this and how their contributions matter. It doesn't matter if you're entry level or senior or somewhere in the middle. Everybody has a role that makes an impact and is equally important, right? So I think those are some of the things that as you get bigger and as you scale in terms of leadership, you have to really start thinking about. And, the other one that I would say, and I talked about this already, it's kind of like just investing in human capital, like investing in the team, investing in the people, developing your team, making sure that they have what they need to be successful, making sure that they feel fulfilled and providing them with opportunities and things like that. That's going to be critical as you evolve because the team is what allows you to scale.
I love the fact that you tie and you get your team to remember the mission and vision and help them tie their work, no matter what levels or what role they're doing. Help them imagine the contribution and how it affects the client. That's super inspiring and super powerful. And I totally agree with you. It's something that we as leader, need to reiterate to them throughout the year, not just like something a sign on the wall that people see, but something that close and dear to our heart.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, in fairness to other business owners or leaders who've talked here before you and who are listening, we're just so caught up in the day to day, right? We have clients calling us and we have problems we're trying to solve and fires we're trying to put out. You just forget, right? So I'm a big believer in oftentimes stepping back and resetting, right?
Mm.
And telling the team, hey, we're not going to work today. We're actually going to just do a review of things. For some, you may have heard this before, but you know what? This is a new and improved version. And for others, you've never heard this. But we're going to review all of these things that are important to building the culture of this company, right? And revisit even things like, who are our clients? Who are the type of companies we want to work with? Who are the type of companies we don't want to work with? Like, all of these things matter to people because it gives them more purpose. And it also, the more informed and connected they feel to the company that they work for, the better their experience is. So these are things that are often overlooked because everybody's just trying to make numbers and everybody's trying to keep clients happy and they're trying to finish their to-dos. But sometimes you have to really step back, reset, and really spend time and invest time in going through these things with people. And you know what is really important too is answering questions. It's just, people have questions. They have things on their mind. Give them an opportunity to ask questions, whether it's live or anonymously. Doesn't matter. What I want is people to be able to ask the question. Just whatever you want to ask me is fair game. You may not love every answer I give you, but I will be honest and I will be direct and I'll give you the opportunity to ask. And so, like, that makes them feel like they can sort of be a part of the company, right? We don't always want to be presenting. We
Yeah.
want people to be asking us what matters to them, right? What are questions that you want to ask and know about?
I think the last part is super important because that helps your people connect well with you. Let's talk more about people. You seem to really care about your people. As you go and look for talent, what are the qualities that you look for?
That's a great question. It's a long list. And I think it's actually one of the hardest things to do as a business owner is identify and hire talent and retain talent too. But just on the front end, it's really hard. And ultimately, it's just an interview. And sometimes you make the right decision and sometimes you make the wrong decision. And over time, you hope you get better, but then you find out sometimes you don't get better. But the things that I look for is curiosity is really important to me.
Yeah.
I like people that dig into the why, right? Why do we do it this way? Why behind campaign performance? I like people that have accountability, right? That they own
Important.
outcome. Yeah, accountability is really important. Owning outcomes, not just tasks. People that are agile, right? That they are able to adapt to, in very varying types of environments, because I think, in especially in an agency, it can be difficult, right? And sometimes it's going to be a tough day, right? But you understand that because you just have that in you, right? You know, not every day you're going to love your job. Some days you're going to dislike your job. Don't love my job description as a founder. It doesn't mean I don't do it, because I recognize not everything that I do I must love. There are some things I do that I must despise. That is normal. That's just life. So I look for people that are kind of adaptable, agile, um, you know, and then I always look for a balance of intelligence, but also someone that has the ability to develop and communicate effectively. Communication is probably, for me, one of the most important skill sets that I value when I try to hire people. Their ability to communicate, convey ideas to me, express themselves, you know depending on the position, explain something very technical in nature in a very easy to way. So I value that as well, communication, because I think when you're working in a business, you have internal customers, you have external customers, and usually the difference in a good relationship and a bad relationship is your ability to communicate,
Yeah.
whether it's in written or oral form or both. But good communication is really important when you're in business because people are constantly talking to you. And I know it sounds like a simple thing, but when you're doing it in a business environment and the going gets tough and you have to be an excellent communicator, you have to story tell, all of these things matter.
Well, I think I totally agree with your communication, especially the intent in your communication is a game changer. As our audience is listening to us, someone who's thinking about starting their own company, I for one know how hard it is. What's your advice to them if they're thinking about starting their company? Hard work is definitely there. What should they look for inspiration to keep them going?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always like to talk people out of starting a company when they say, should I start a company? It's kind of a test, right? Do you really want to do this? Do you understand what you're getting into? Um, because I think the road is going to be inevitably difficult. It's not a linear path, right? It's full of ups and downs. So I want people to know that that's what will happen, right? And the scale of which that happens might vary depending on the type of business or size of business, but it's going to be tough, right? If you want to grow a real business, I'm not talking about a make believe business. It's going to be difficult, but assuming you understand that, I would say don't chase vanity, focus on profitable growth. So really be intentional with focusing on profitability and growing your business and making it a very financially healthy business, right? That's one of the things I did right early on. I created the infrastructure needed from a legal, from a finance, accounting standpoint so that I could manage the business well, right? I had all the books and the P&L and everything, right? Because I said this before, I'm using it again, but you can't, manage what you can't measure. So really focusing on the metrics that matter for the business and not getting distracted with vanity metrics. That's definitely one thing. Invest in people early. I've talked about this. You're not going to be able to scale a business alone. So invest in human capital, whether that's you finding talent on your own or partnering with a staffing agency to help you, networking with people to bring in the right talent. Make sure that you invest in that. Make sure that you invest in qualifying those people to make sure that they're going to be a good fit. And then once they are a good fit, really invest in those first 90 days, at least a lasting impression on employees. And then ongoing, just constant opportunities to invest in your people. You cannot neglect that because people, they pay attention and they take notice. I would say also on the other side of the business, it's stay close to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
um, really understand who your customers are, what their pain points are, what their goals and objectives are, how are they evaluating you as a partner, what is the success metric or what are the success metrics or KPIs. Be clear on that, align with them, make sure we're tracking towards that. If not, make sure that we're communicating, but do more listening, do a lot of listening when it comes to customers. It's really important to listen. And then success isn't one thing. It's not about a single big move. It's an accumulation of things, right? But in business, remember to celebrate all the victories, whether they're small or large. They don't have to be these huge wins. Just celebrate them along the way. There's going to be a lot of things that are not fun, but you have to embrace it all, the good and the bad, but try to celebrate these victories along the way, because it's not going to be this one thing that happens where you're like, this is the victory, right? So it's really important. That's what sort of should motivate you and keep you coming back for more, and wanting to put up for with all the pain and suffering that is part of having a business.
Well, thank you for sharing what it takes and what they need to do in order to be able to have a successful startup. For my audience, how do they reach out to you? They want to invite you to speak at their event, or they just want to reach out to you to have a conversation. What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, they can visit our website is one option, digital.com. That's FOUR15digital.com. There they can learn more about the services we provide, some great customer success stories, and then we have a form, contact us form. Feel free to fill that out. We'll get back to you. It's usually me within, a day. Also, I'm on LinkedIn and I do some occasional posts on LinkedIn and writing. I'm an author on LinkedIn, so I write on various topics related to business and entrepreneurship and digital marketing. So Borja Cuan is my sort of handle, BORJACUAN at LinkedIn, and would love to connect. And if anybody on the who's listening here has a business and they're doing digital marketing, but they're struggling with this, happy to come in and do an audit free of charge and look at sort of what they're up to and give them some feedback.
Well, thank you for that offer to the listener. I'm sure they're going to take you up for that. Thank you, Borja, for your time. I know you're very busy, but in spite of being busy, you still came and be a guest on my show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.